Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's accounting lesson. My name is Sifiso Buthelezi. This lesson is brought to you by the Free State Department of Education in collaboration with Pagama Research and Development. Grade 12s, welcome to our last session for the year. My name is Buthelezi S. Let us look at the topics for today. We are going to be looking at the reconciliations, cost accounting, and then the subtopics would be the bank reconciliation statements, which is the BRS, the creditor's reconciliation statement, and manufacturing. Now, grade 12s, let us look at the goals or the objectives of this lesson. Firstly, you need to understand the structure of paper 2. The paper that you'll be writing tomorrow is paper 2, so you need to understand the structure of paper 2. You will also have to complete the cash journals, which is the CRJ and the CPJ. You will have to know how to complete the bank account in the general ledger or calculate the bank account balance. And then you will also practice how to calculate or revise how to calculate bank reconciliation statement. And then we are going to also be able to calculate or to complete the creditors control, the creditors list, and then we are going to do the production cost statement as well as the notes regarding the production cost statement. Now, this is what we are going to be looking at, grade 12s. The other topics is what we've been covering from the beginning of the year. Now, let us look at the topics for paper 2. Which topics can you expect tomorrow for your paper 2? Now, let us just check this. We should expect our reconciliations. What do we expect under reconciliations? We are going to be seeing our bank reconciliation statement, our creditors reconciliation statement, our debtors reconciliation statement. It will be good, grade 12s, that you practice all the 3 statements for you to be ready for your reconciliation topic in your paper 2. And then on top of this, we should also expect to see our age analysis. So we need to practice also our age analysis, debtors age analysis. Normally, we would always see that going together with the debtors reconciliation or the bank statement. And then number 2, we should expect to see our cost accounting. Under cost accounting, we are going to be seeing our production cost statement as a whole or just calculation of certain items in our production cost statement, our note for production cost statement. We will also have to know how to calculate the break-even point and also comment in this break-even point as well as other unit cost calculation as well as the comments. What are the examples of these unit costs? We're talking about the direct material cost, the direct labor cost, the selling and distribution cost, the factory overhead costs, and so on. There are so many costs that we are going to be expected to calculate as well as comment on. And then number 3, we need to know the topic budgeting. What do we expect under the topic budgeting? We expect the cash budget. Remember, in grade 12, normally we would have to complete certain missing items in our cash budget, analyze our cash budget. And then we also expect to see our projected income statement, also analyze certain figures in our projected income statement. And then you will be expected to complete your debtors collection schedule and your creditor's payment schedule. Please refer to the previous lesson regarding our debtor's collection schedule as well as our creditor's payment schedule, together with the topic budgeting. Remember, in our previous topic, we have covered budgeting. And then we also expect to see our stock valuation. So you can expect to calculate closing stock using FIFO, using specific identification, using weighted average. Okay, so these are the calculations, grade 12s, that you need to expect, together with other items that we've been discussing in the previous lessons regarding the stock valuation. Okay, so it is not covered in this lesson, but in the previous lesson, you can go and refer back where we were calculating closing stock using the 3 methods. We were calculating cost of sales, markup, so many calculation, problem solving. There were so many things that we were doing under stock valuations. Right, and then we need to also expect the fixed assets. Remember, in your paper 1, you've seen a lot of depreciation calculations. So meaning in your paper 2, you can also expect to see the problem solving questions under the fixed assets. And then we should also expect our value added tax. Remember, this is the topic you've done. Some have done it in term 2, some have done it in term 3. Right, and then we expect to see also the internal control, the ethics of each of the topics, and then lastly, you need to prepare your GAAP principles, because there may be GAAP principles integrated in all the topics that we see above. Now, let us look at the next part. Now, we're just going to shoot straight and do an activity on our bank reconciliation statement, just to check if we all understand the bank reconciliation statement. We'll try to do this question in a very effective manner. We are not going to be too fast. We're just going to move at a pace of everyone so that everyone understands this topic. Now, the paper that we are doing, it is a paper extracted from the 2023 NSC paper 2, question 1. So you have your worksheet, you have your question paper. Please also refer to that question, question 1. Now let us check what is given to you here. I'm just going to go through the information, and then later on we're going to break down each and every information into smaller pieces and solve each and every item one by one. Right? The bank reconciliation, the information relates to Mango Traders for June 2023. The business uses the official bank statement which is received on the 26th of each month. Okay? Anything after the 26th, it will mean that it won't appear in our books. Right? Or it won't appear on the bank statement rather. Right, 1.1.1, what are we expected to do? We are expected to calculate the following on the 30th of June 2023. Correct totals for the cash journals. Use the table provided in the answer book. So we're going to refer to the table for us to complete the correct cash journal. Meaning you don't draw your own, it will be given to you in this activity. And then after that, we are going to calculate the bank account balance in the general ledger of the business for 4 marks. And then lastly, we prepare the bank reconciliation statement on the 30th of June 2023. This is for 8 marks. Now, in the information given, we are given information A. This is our previous bank reconciliation. So meaning this is the previous month's bank reconciliation statement. Why are they giving us this bank reconciliation? Some of you got it right. Because some figures will need to be recorded or compared with our books. Now, but what is it that you need to note here? You need to note that the 27,600, which is the balance as per bank statement from the previous, it means we don't record it anywhere. You don't record that. The only balances per bank statement will be the last one at the bottom of your bank statement. That is what we will record there. So this 27,600 won't be recorded anywhere. So you can just put a cross on that one. We're not going to record it anyway. There we have our outstanding deposit, our outstanding EFTs, as well as the favorable balances per bank account in the ledger. Now look at this. This one, remember, this becomes our opening balance in the bank account. Okay, meaning when we do our bank account, this 49,100 will become our opening balance, and it's written favorable. Favorable means our debits. Okay, it means the debit side. Now they're saying notes. The cashier reported that the cash to be deposited on the 18th of May was stolen while she was on her way to the bank. This is a problem now. This amount must be written off. We are going to clarify everything right now. We're just reading the information so that we familiarize ourselves with this activity. Now, the next part, we're given cash channels totals for CRJ and CPJ. There we have our totals. And then we are given also our bank statement information or figures. There are our figures from the ACE stationers, EFT 816, up until transaction fees 540. Okay. Information C, there we have our information elaborating on the bank statement given to us from the first point to point number 5, EFT 816, up until the transaction that says the monthly transaction fees were duplicated on the statement, on the bank statement. Okay. And then information D, E, and E, there we have it. Entries in the cash channels that do not agree with the June bank statement, meaning all of these entries, so we will learn later on, they need to go to our bank reconciliation statement. And then information E, the owner withdrew 11,000 from an ATM to pay wages on 29 June 2023, but did not inform the bookkeeper. Now, it means that we need to have our records done. And then information F, the bank statement balance on 30 June 2023 reflects a question mark, meaning this becomes our balancing figure. Now, we are now going to break each and every item. As we break, we are going to talk more about that particular item. Now, let us look at our first information. If you can check here, you are given the previous month's bank reconciliation statement. Remember what I said to you earlier on? I said, what do we do with the 27,600? This we don't record anyway. The 26,700, 27,600, we don't record it anywhere because there is a figure from the previous bank statement. It has expired. We don't use it anyway. Okay? Now, let us look at our information now. This one says now, EFT 816 to ACE stationers is correct on the bank statement. Let us look at that EFT. We have it here, but we have it as 7,400. And we also have it on our bank statement as 4,700. So we are faced with a dilemma now of two figures, 7,400 as well as 4,700. What are we saying here? They are saying that the money in the bank statement is correct, meaning this 4,700 is correct. And then the 7,400 is wrong. Now, what must we remember now? All EFTs are recorded in the CPJ initially. We record them in the CPJ. Meaning all EFTs goes to the CPJ. Meaning on our bank statement, this is what you need to do. In your bank statement, you need to write CPJ on top of the debit. You write CRJ on top of the credit. Please do that with me. Debit side of the bank statement, you write CPJ. Credit side of the bank statement, you write CRJ. Okay. Now, what is happening now? Let us look at the solution here. What is the first thing you need to do? We have this money coming from the BRS, and we have this money coming from the bank statement. We recorded 7,400. Remember, we record in the bank reconciliation. Who is we? We are the business. The business recorded in the bank reconciliation as 7.4, but the bank where we are banking our money, they recorded 4,700, and they said that the bank amount is correct. Now, first step, what do? You first get the difference between the two so that you can update one of the books. Remember, business books, bank's books. Okay, bank's books is correct. Our business books will be wrong this time. Okay, now what does it say now? If we have recorded 7.4, it means we have overstated. What do I mean by the word overstated? It means we recorded extra. There's an extra amount. It means we over-recorded the amount. So what do we need to do? We need to reduce the amount. Now, how do we reduce the amount now? All overstated payments, we record them in the total receipts. All overstated payments, we record them in the total receipt. What does it say now? All overstated receipts, we record them in the cash payment journal. It means we overpaid, so they owe us, they need to refund us some money in this case. So that in a practical sense, that's what this will mean. So this is why now the 2,700 will be added together with the 81,300, which is our opening balance for our starting total or provisional total for our total receipts. Okay, now I hope this one is clear. Remember the keywords: overstated, understated. Overstated payments, we record them in the CRJ. Overstated receipts, we record them in the CPJ. I hope you are noting that down as part of your revision. Meaning understated receipts, same journal, which is CRJ. Understated payments, let me just write it down. If the payments are understated, we enter them in our CPJ. Understated receipts, we enter them in our total receipt journal. Okay, now let us move on. Before we move on, maybe some would need to look at this. Overstated payments, CRJ. Understated receipt, CRJ. Overstated receipt, CPJ. Understated payments, that will be CPJ again. Okay, now let's move on. Now let us look at the next transaction. Remember, money was stolen. The cashier reported that the deposit on the 18th of May, let us look at that deposit. Here is the deposit. It says 18 May. Are we all clear there? Remember the 27,600, remember we do not enter it anywhere. And then the 7,400, we have solved it. We're not going to look at it anymore. Okay, please tick what you have solved. Now, what do we do with this now? Once money is lost, cannot be found, we must write it off. So what is the rule here? Write off payments in our CRJ we write off receipts in our CPJ. When I say receipts, I'm also referring to the deposits. Okay, now why must we write it off? We follow the principle of prudence. Okay, remember, what does the principle of prudence say? It says that any possible losses must be written off in the correct books. Okay, so that is what we are doing. That is why the amount must be written off, because we are trying to be prudent. We are following the principle of prudence. Okay, now how do we record this one now? Remember, this was a deposit. What did we say? We said that all deposits must be written off in the cash payment. This is why the 30,000 is shown under the cash payments. Hope you are fine here. Remember, we've been seeing it in the previous papers that there is sometimes an amount that you need to write off. If this was a payment, you're going to write it off under the cash receipt journal. Now let us move on. Here we have our information from the bank statement. And let's look at the transaction now. It says EFT 792 to BK Builders was incorrectly recorded in the June cash receipt journal. Okay, now this amount was entered incorrectly in the June cash receipt journal. Because it's an EFT, remember, all EFTs must be entered in the cash payment journal. But what did we do? We entered this EFT under the cash receipt journal. Now, how do we correct this, grade 12s? How do we correct it? Right, let us look at that. Some of you got it right. Let me just remove this so that it becomes clear. Right, first thing we need to do, we can get the total of which we are going to explain just now. Remember what happened here. This is my CPJ. This is my CRJ. Now, this amount, the EFT 792, was incorrectly recorded in the June cash receipt journal, meaning this EFT 792, we entered it here, 6,200. How do we correct this? We are going to correct it by entering it in the CPJ now. Now, how do we do that? We first enter the first 6,200. Why are we doing that? To correct the mistake that was done. So this is the correction of the mistake that was done. And then number two, what do we do again? Now we record the 6,200 again in the CPJ. Now we are recording the correct entry. Now here, this is just a recording of the correct entry. Okay, now meaning how much are we recording? It is 6,000, because I can have it like this, 6,200 plus another 6,200. Where am I doing this? I'm doing this in my CPJ. This gives me a total of 12,400. Okay, there we have it. There we have our working 6,200 multiplied by 2. Or just 6,200 plus 6,200. Now, why am I recording it in the CPJ? Because this is an EFT. Remember, here we have EFTs. Here we have our receipts and our deposits. Okay, apart from the cash register roll and all of that. Okay. Now, there we have it. Remember, why are we recording 12,400? Because the first 6,200 is to cancel what has been done wrong in the CRJ. The other 6,200 is to record what was never recorded in the cash payment journal. So 6,200 plus another 6,200, we get a total of 12,400. Okay, let's move on. Now we're looking at our bank reconciliation statement. Let's see what are they saying about this. This is what we call as the silent transactions. You are given the bank reconciliation, also the bank statement. Let's see what's happening here. Let's compare the two. In my bank statement, there's a deposit on the 30th of May for 18,200. Let me check if it's there in my bank reconciliation. There I have it. Remember, what is my goal? What is my goal? Remember, what do I need? I need all amounts to appear in the BRS or journals and the bank statement. So if an amount appears in the BRS, also appears in the bank statement, it's mission accomplished. It means, what do? I am not going to record anything in the BRS. I am not going to record anything in my journals, or I'm not even going to record anything in my BRS. So no recording in the BRS. So we are not going to record anything in the BRS, nothing in the cash channels, nothing in the bank statement, if we were to fix that. But our books will be the BRS and the cash channels. So we are not going to record anything in the BRS. We are not going to record anything in the cash journals. Okay, there we have it. Now let's just look at the next item. Remember this one, no recording. Next item now. Here we are given the bank's statement. There's a direct deposit of G-Clan, 14,600. Now, what are they saying about that? The direct deposit by G-Clan was for monthly rent. Remember, what did I say to you? I said the direct deposits must go into our CRJ. EFTs as well as the fees on the CPJ. Now, this will be very easy to do. Then we go to our CRJ, we record on the CRJ. Okay, so we go to our total receipt, then we'll record there. And then why are we recording in the CRJ? Because we are receiving this amount. So this is an amount we are receiving. So our tenant has deposited money into our business account. Let's move on. Now, information C, extract from the June bank statement. VX Garage, EFT 818, 3,780. Now, let's just check what they are saying here about this. Now, they are elaborating, giving us more information about this bank statement amount because it is not there in our bank reconciliation. EFT 818 to VX Garage was for repairs to the company vehicle. Now, the owner neglected to submit the transaction record slip to the bookkeeper. The entry was made in the books. How do we record this one now? No entry was made in the books, I beg your pardon, so we didn't record this amount. So what do? Now we must record in our books. Now, why am I recording it in the CPJ? Because in the CPJ, I record my EFTs and my fees. Please remember that in my CPJ, I record my EFTs not appearing in my business books, as well as my fees. So there is an amount 3,780. Hope grade 12, so you are okay here. Now let's move on. We also have an amount that did not appear in the bank reconciliation statement, but it's there in the bank statement. It's written interest. What did we learn? We learned that anything on the credit side is part of CRJ. Anything on the debit side is part of CPJ. Okay, now it's 240. Where do I record this? It goes to my total receipts. Remember, your worksheet is showing everything. Mine, we have decided to break it into pieces so that we give you deeper understanding of these items. There we have it. The next one, here is this transaction now. Extract from the bank statement. We are dealing with the bank statement a lot here, if you can notice. Cash deposit fee 320, transaction fees 540, another transaction fees. You see that this is just the same thing. Transaction fees, then 540. Now, what are we saying here? The monthly transaction fees were duplicated. What do we mean by duplicated? It means that we recorded twice by mistake. So this is the mistake we have done. Remember, we're supposed to record only once, meaning between the two 540s, one belongs to the business. It must be recorded in the business. The other one must be fixed by the bank. Meaning this should go to our bank reconciliation statement. This one should go to our CPJ. Meaning one 540 should go to our CPJ. Another 540 should be recorded in the BRS so that the bank can fix it because it doesn't belong to us. Now let us check how this is supposed to be recorded. Now our 540 is one, there we have it, plus the 320. Remember, those are our cash deposit fees. Meaning altogether our bank charges, remember these are our bank charges. Our bank charges now becomes 860. So now where do we record this? It should go to our total payments. Now let me just erase here so that you can see. Now in our total payments, we will have 860. Which is the total of 540 plus 320. And we're moving on. Transaction E, the owner withdrew 11,000 from an ATM to pay wages on 29 June 2023, but did not inform the bookkeeper. This is now a problem for our business, okay? Because we didn't communicate, so our books are definitely not updated. Now, how do we record this? We are not going to go to the bank reconciliation statement because this is not the fault of the bank. It is our fault as the business. So it is 11,000. Remember, this is the money withdrawn on the 29th of June. Now, let us look at our total cash receipts. Remember, the first thing we started it was the 2,700. We followed by the 30,000, and then there's also the 12,400, which is the 6,200 plus 6,200, 14,600, 240, which was the amount for the interest, remember. And then we had 3,780, which was the EFT not recorded. And then 860, which was our bank charges, 540 plus the amount for cash deposit fees. And then also we had this ATM withdrawal amount of 11,000. Now when we say 80,620 plus 30,000 plus 12,400 plus 3,780 plus 860 plus 11,000, we get a total of 138,660. And then going to the CRJ, 81,300 plus 2,700 plus 14,600 plus 240, we get a total of 98,840. Now we're moving on. Now let us look at our bank account now. How are we going to do our bank account? Can you now prepare your bank account? I'm just going to quickly draw it here, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do your bank account. Now, how are you doing your bank account? You now have your receipts completed, you have your total payments completed, and then now this is your previous bank reconciliation. Now you have to do your bank account. Now I'm giving you 2 minutes to do your bank account. Right, grade 12s, welcome back. You were given a task. We gave you a task to do the bank account. Now let's see. You are given a space. You can draw a T account on that space. Now, where do we start? Some of you got it correct. We start with on the previous bank reconciliation. It's written favorable. Which side is favorable? It is the debit side. The credit side becomes our unfavorable side. Meaning, on my debit side, I'll have my balance brought down, 49,100. And then now I go to my journals now. I have my total receipts. I have my total payments. Now the total receipt goes to my debit side. My total payments goes to my credit side. So meaning here I'll have my total receipts. Why is total receipts on the debit side? Because it favors us. It's money in. So it's favorable. So that is why it's on the debit side. So it's 98,840. And then the total payments will be on our credit side. So we have our total payments. CPJ, 138,660. And then from now, we're going to check which side is bigger here. Our bigger side, let us prove the two. Check the debit side, 49,100. Let's calculate together, plus 98,840. Then we get 147,940. 147,940. So we put that on both sides because that's the bigger side. Then we subtract now 138,660. Then we get 9,280. So this is our balance carried down. Now this balance carried down will come to the debit side to become balance brought down, 9,280. Okay, so grade 12, you can see here we have our ledger account. Now I'm going to display it in a more nicer way so that you can understand what's happening here. Okay, here this is what we have now. Remember, this is what we've done. We have set 49,100 plus 98,840 minus, remember, this is CRJ minus CPJ, and then this was our balance. Okay, then we get 9,280 as a debit balance. Now next one, we have information D as well as E, debit, the entries in the cash journals for June 2023 that do not agree, they do not agree with the June bank statement. Remember, we've already stated that all of these will go to our bank reconciliation. Then information E, the owner withdrew 11,000 from an ATM to pay wages on 29th June 2023, but did not inform the bookkeeper. Now, how are we going to record this? We are going to start with our outstanding deposit, which is the deposit on 27th June 2023. Remember, the 30,000 and the 18,000 have been solved. 30,000 was solved, 18,000, also the amount of 18,000 for outstanding deposit from the previous month was also solved. So this we record it as our credit outstanding deposit, and then we have the next one, debit outstanding EFTs, 31,500. Then we have EFT 944, EFT 945. There we have them, 9,700, 13,300. Why are we recording them in the bank reconciliation statement? Because these are items in the journals, but not appearing in the bank statement. And then last one, the owner withdrew 11,000 from an ATM. Remember, this has been done on the 29th of June. Our bank statement, remember, it closes on the 26th, meaning any transaction that takes place after the 26th will have to be recorded in the bank reconciliation statement. Now let's look at the next one. Extracts from the June bank statement. These are two fees, transaction fees 540, 540. The monthly transaction fees were duplicated on the bank statement, so it must be corrected again on the bank reconciliation. Remember, one went to the BRS, one also went to the cash payment journal. So this one will go to our BRS now. So we will say credit duplicated bank fees, and then we record it on the credit side. Why credit side? Because we recorded it twice. We recorded it twice in the debit side. So mistakes done in the debit side are corrected in the credit side. Now let us look at our bank account. This is what we have already done. Now we want to finalize our bank reconciliation statement. Now for our bank reconciliation statement now, we are going to go back to the bank account we have calculated. Remember, we got a debit balance. Now we come here, we are going to record it as debit balance as per bank account. And then we record it on the debit side. If the amount was on the credit side, we were going to say credit balance as per bank account. And then record it on the credit side. Now, last transaction, the bank statement balance on 30 June 2023 reflected a question mark. How do we do this now? We are going to take our credit balance, we are going to take our outstanding deposit as recorded earlier on, Our outstanding EFTs, the two of them have been recorded. The ATM withdrawal for wages has been recorded. The duplicated bank fees has been recorded. The debit balances per bank account has been recorded. Now we're going to balance the two sides and check which side is bigger now. When we take our 9,700 plus our 13,000, let's calculate together. 13,300 plus 11,000 plus 9,280, we get a total of 43,280. So that total, we're going to record it on both sides. Now, how do we get the difference between those? We say 43,280 minus the amount of 31,500. And then we get, remember, the 11,280. How do we get that? We say 43,000. This comes here. 43,280 minus 31,500. And then we get 11,240. So it goes in on the credit side. This is why we would say now credit balance as per bank statement. Now let us move on. We are now looking at our creditors reconciliation statement activity, extracted from the NSC 2022. Remember, our debtors reconciliation statement will just be an opposite of the creditors, meaning anything done on the debit side in the creditors, in the debtors, it's done on the debit side. So that is where we have a difference, but the principles are almost the same. Right, let us look at the activity. This activity was extracted from our NSC question 1. So this is also coming from our question 1, part number B, the bottom part. Now let us look at this. The information relates to SEP traders for August 2023 required 1.2.1, taking into account the errors and omission, meaning the mistakes and the exclusions. Calculate the correct balance for the creditors control account and the creditors list. Indicate changes with a plus sign for an increase and a minus sign for a decrease. So meaning it's important that you write the signs. If you don't write the signs, we assume everything is positive. Now, information A, balance and totals on 31 August 2023 before correcting the mistakes and exclusions. Creditors control balance, we have it. Creditors list balance there. Remember, these two are supposed to be the same. Why must they be the same? Because they use the same set of information. I'm asking again, why must the creditors control be the same as the creditors list? Because they use the same set of information. Now let's look at this. These are our creditors: Putter, Planet, Mish, Aerial, Supplies. Okay, they are the figures. And then these are our transactions now. We are going to be analyzing these transactions one by one. Okay, I'm gonna break them into smaller pieces so that we all understand what's happening. Now let's look at the first one. The total of the creditors' allowances journal was understated. When I say creditors' allowances, I mean creditors' control. When I say creditors' journal, I also mean creditors' control. When I say journal, I mean creditors' control. Okay? Now, this amount was understated by 3,600, meaning we recorded less. And then what do we do with the CAJs? Remember, we subtract this. Let's see how this is supposed to be done. We subtracted less, so we need to do what? Go to the creditors control, subtract an extra 3,600. Why am I subtracting? Because the nature of the CAJ is that we do what? We subtract. Let's look at the next one. A payment of 14,250 made to Puto wholesalers was in error posted as 15,240 to the creditor's ledger account. Posting to the ledger was correct. Okay, we are faced with two figures here. What do we do now? The 15,240 is correct, but we have recorded 14,250. So this amount has been overstated. Now, how do we record this? So this was a payment, meaning this one was an understated recording. So this is just an understated recording, okay? So it was a payment. So this is a payment, remember, it was 15,000, or we can call it as an overstated payment or a recording not done correctly. So because this was a payment, this was supposed to be subtracted, but because we are correcting this mistake, we are going to now do what? Add the 990, which is the difference, okay? Because this was a payment. We posted 15,000, and then the payment is saying 14,250. They are saying the posting is the one that is correct. So 15,200 is correct, but 14,000 is wrong. Okay, so we need to add 990. Next transaction, transaction number 3. An invoice received from Planet Suppliers 9,540 and recorded in the creditors channel was posted in error to the account of Puto wholesalers in the creditors ledger. Now, how do we record this? There will not be any recording, so no records, because it is just the movement between the one ledger and to another ledger. Okay, so no recording in the creditors control, no recording in the creditors list. Okay, because here they said an invoice of 9,540 was recorded in the CAJ, in the CJ, and was posted in error to the account of Puto. So it is just an internal arrangement here. So we are not going to record on both accounts. Right, now, Roman figure 4, goods returned to Mish dealers, 7,500, recorded in the CAJ, was posted to the account in the creditors ledger as an invoice. Now, remember, returns, we do what with the returns? We subtract. But invoices, what do we do with the invoice? We add. Now, what did we do? We took the money of the returns, we recorded them as invoices, meaning this money was added. Now, what are we going to do here? Now, we are going to subtract the 7,500 to correct the mistake that we have done. And again, record the 7,500 to now record the returns. So altogether, it's 7,500 multiplied by 2. Then we get 15,000. So this 15,000, we are going to subtract twice. We are going to minus this 15,000. But the 7,500, we subtract twice. Okay? So there we have it. Next transaction, errors and or omissions. SEP traders recorded a purchase of 13,280. There is our figure from aerial suppliers in the CJ after deducting a trade discount of 20%. However, aerial suppliers informed them that the trade discount agreed on was only 10%, meaning we gave ourselves more discount, meaning we subtracted too much. We need to correct that. Let's look at the elaboration on this. 20% is just the wrong discount we have awarded ourselves. 80% is the amount after the wrong discount was taken into account, which is 100 minus 20. 100% is the full amount before deducting any kind of a discount. 10% is the correct discount granted. Now, let us get the full amount because the 13,280 is after the discount. Remember, this is after deducting the discount, the incorrect discount to be precise. Now, 13,280 multiplied by 100 over 80, then we get 16,000. Now, this is the amount excluding the discount. Now, for us to know how much is our correct discount now is to say 16,600 multiplied by 10 over 100. Now we know our discount is 1,660. How do we now record this? We need to reduce our discount, remember? Meaning our discount has been doubled. We gave ourselves 20% instead of giving ourselves what? 10%. So remember, it means we subtracted more. What are we supposed to do? We need to correct it by adding now. So we add on both books, and creditors control and creditors list to correct the mistake. Now this is our full creditors control and creditors list. There we have it. 175,940. Remember, it didn't affect creditors control transaction Roman figure 2, 3, and 4. Then Roman figure 4 affected. Then 175,940 plus minus 3,600 plus 1,660. We get 174,000. And then 185,350 plus 990 minus 15,000 plus 1,660, then we get 174,000. Now let's move on. Now we are stepping off our reconciliations now. In our last portion of time we are going to focus on our cost accounting. We are going to use an activity we have extracted from our May-June, the SC 2023. There is our information given to us. Ladu manufacturers, the business manufactures leather purses. The financial year end is 28 February. It's very important to know the financial year end when you deal with matching items, matching principle. 3.1.1, refer to information C, calculate the factory overhead cost. 3.1.2, prepare the production cost statement on 28 February 2023. That is for 10 marks. Okay. Information A, work in progress stock balance on 1 March 2022 was 542,000. Information B, details of workers in the production, meaning this is our direct labor, you would all agree. Number of workers, 40, basic wage or rate would be 60 rands per hour. Normal time hours worked by each worker, 1,920. Overtime in total, you are given an amount here. So we are lucky because an amount is just given. So this is the value, the rand amount. Let's move on. Information C, the bookkeeper calculated the factory overhead cost at 2,638,600. This is an amount that has been calculated, but this amount excluded the following items. Insurance is a fixed monthly premium for the entire financial year. The amount paid, 235,950, includes the premium for March 2023. 2/3 of this expense relate to the factory. Next point, water and electricity allocated to the office was 69,200. Note that water and electricity is shared according to the floor space as follows. Factory 560 square meters, sales 240 square meters, office 160 square meters. Now, the following entry must still be corrected. Rent of 316,000 was recorded in the factory overhead cost. However, the bookkeeper used the incorrect, meaning this is now an incorrect ratio for factory sales and office. The correct ratio now, which is 5:2:1, is supposed to be used. Now, information D, prime cost for the year amounted to 12,500,000. And then information E, the production for the year, 33,500 units were produced at a cost of 575 rands per unit. Then we have our information B with the list of our information. We're going to need that at a later stage when you work this on your own. Information C, you're also going to need this at a later stage when you do the remaining part of the question. And then let us now break this into pieces, and then so that we can be able to work it out. Right. Calculate the factory overhead cost. Let's look at the first part of our information. The bookkeeper calculated the factory overhead cost to be 2,638,600. The following costs were omitted and must be taken into account. Insurance is a fixed monthly premium for the entire financial year. The amount paid is 235,950, includes the premium for March. Now, there we have our problem now. Remember our year end, remember you must always have your year end. Year end is 28 February 2020. I'm going to erase this so that we show how this is done. Now, 2/3, 2/3 of this expense relates to the factory. Let's look at how this is supposed to be done. When did we start paying for our insurance? We started at the beginning of the year, which is March, and we paid up until the 31st of March 2023. Started paying on the 1st of March 2022, and then up until the 31st of March 2023. If you can count, it's March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, and March. So this gives us 13 months. Now, to know how much we are paying per month, we can say 235,950 divided by 13 months. So this gives us 18,150. Now, the amount that we need to record now, 18,150 times 12. This will give us 217,800. Now, let's look at how we're supposed to record this. Remember, 217,000 is now the correct amount, not the 235. Remember, the 235 is for 13 months, but the 217 is for what now? 12 months. We can now use it to allocate or to appropriate the amounts that from different, to different departments. Now, 217,800 multiplied by 2/3, then we get 145,200. Let's look at the second one. Calculate the factory overhead cost. The bookkeeper calculated the factory overhead cost at 2,638,600. The following costs were omitted and must be taken into account. Water and electricity allocated to the office was 69,200. Note that water and electricity is shared according to the floor space as follows. Factory is 560, sales 240, and office 160. How are we supposed to do? Remember, we're dealing with factory. What we want must be on top. So this is my factory, and then I divide by the total. Now, how do I get my total? I need to add 560 plus 240 plus 160. Then I get 960. Now, what do I do now? I must first find the total. Remember, the 69,200 is the office one. Remember, 69,200 belongs to the office. What is the ratio for office? The space for office? Our space for office is 160 square meters. Now, how do I do this? I will say the amount given multiplied by the total square meters in total, divide by my square meters for the office. And then we get 415,200. Then now we can now safely multiply by 560 over 960. Let's look at our answer now. We say 69,000. This is also another way of doing it. 69,200 multiplied by 560 over 160. We are looking for factory divided by office, because that's what we are given. We are given office. Okay, 242. I can say 415,200 multiplied by 560 divided by 960. Then I will still get my 242, 200. So it's either we say 69,200 multiplied by 560 over 160, or we can say 415,200 multiplied by 560 over 960. So these are two ways. Remember, you need to know how to use the amount given multiplied by the percentage I want over the percentage I'm given. Be able to play around with those. Now let's look at the next one. This one talks about rent. Rent of 316,000 was recorded in the factory overhead cost. However, the bookkeeper used the incorrect ratio of 2:5:1 for factory sales and equipment instead of the correct ratio of 5:2:1 respectively. Now let's look at this. What is the first thing you need to do? You need to add your ratios. You can say 2 plus 5 plus 1 gives us 8. Because we want the total from the incorrect one. Okay? From the incorrect one, which says 2:5:1. All of this gives us 8. So we want the total so that you can go back and recalculate correctly. So we can now say 316,000 multiplied by 8 over 2, because 2 is the factory amount. Then we get 1,264,000, and then we now use the correct ratio now, which is 5:2:1. So we say multiply by 5 over 8. Then we get 790. We can now remove the 316 which has been included there. Then we get 474,000. Now, this is also another way of doing this. You can decide to reduce the ratios. Remember, we recorded 2:5:1, which is wrong. The correct one is what? 5. Let me just show it here. Just gonna erase so that it becomes clear. So 2:5:1, which is wrong. And then we have the correct one, which is 5:2:1. Now, what do I do now? Remember, this is factory, this is factory. Wrong factory, correct factory. Now I will say 5 minus 2, I get what? 3. Okay? We'll get 3. So 316 is a ratio of 2. Remember, this is the ratio of 2. So I can now say 3 divided by 2, because that is given, multiplied by 316. Then I get 474,000. Okay? You can use any of the two ways. The next one, now we look at our factory overheads. There we have our figures now. We've already done them. 145,200, 242,200, 474,000, and then when we add this 2 million, don't forget the amount that is typed in for you, 2,638,600 plus 145,200 plus 242,200 plus 474,000. Then we get a total of 3,500,000. Now, we are now focusing in our production cost statement. This is our information B. We are now focusing on our direct labor. This is our information B. Details of the workers in the production. Number of workers are 40. Basic or normal wage rate, 60. Normal time hours worked by each worker, 1,920. Overtime in total, 1,142,000. Total prime cost is 12,500,000. This is what I need you to do for me. I'm just gonna give you 2 minutes. I want you to calculate direct labor cost. Please use information B to calculate direct labor cost. Just giving you 2 minutes. Right, grade 12s, welcome back. You were required to calculate the direct labor cost. Let us just see how this is supposed to be done. For our direct labor cost, we are going to check how many workers do we have. We have 40 workers. How much are they earning per hour? They are earning 60, so it's 40 multiplied by 60. How many hours each worker worked? Each worker worked 1,920. So it is now 40 multiplied by 60 multiplied by 1,920. And then meaning the basic wages for our workers will be 4,608,000. Let us calculate that together. 40 multiplied by 60 multiplied by 1,920. Right, so it's 4,608,000 rands. Okay. Now overtime amount plus our overtime amount, which will be 1,142,000. Let's look at that. There we have it. 4,608,000 plus 1,142,000. And then we get a total of 5,750,000. Our prime cost is given. Total prime cost for the year amounted to 12,500,000. There we have it. Now, how do I get my direct material cost? Now I will have to say what? I'll have to say now my prime cost minus my direct labor. Then this gives me my direct material cost. There we have it. 12,500,000 minus 5,750,000. So we get a total of 6,750,000. The next item, 3.1.2, production cost statement on 28 February 2023. Direct material cost, 12,500,000 minus 5,750,000. Already this we have done. Direct labor cost we have already calculated. Prime cost already calculated. Now remember, we calculated factory overhead. It gave us 3,500,000. So it follows the format. And then now, how do we get total manufacturing cost? How do I get total manufacturing cost now? We now say prime cost plus factory overhead cost. Then we get total manufacturing cost of 16 million. 12,500,000 plus 3 million. Now let's move on. Work in progress at the beginning was given. So now we will now say 16 million plus 542,000. And then we get 16,542,000. Now we're looking at the last one. Remember, work in process, we did not given. It was not given, so it becomes our balancing figure. Let's look at the transaction given to us now. Information E. Total production for the year, 33,500 units were produced at a cost of 575 rands per unit. How do I get my cost of production? We're going to also use another way of getting this. You are going to take the production, the units produced, multiplied by the production cost per unit. So 33,500 multiplied by 475. Then we get 15,912,500. How do we get our working process now? We take 16,542,000 on above minus the cost of production of finished goods of 15,912,500. And then we get our answer to be 629,500. Right, great jobs. I hope you got this one right. This is our production cost statement. Now, great jobs. We are now going to look at some other additional items for our cost accounting. Right, there is also another way of getting the cost of production. If they don't give you this kind of a transaction where we are given the units produced multiplied by the production cost per unit, you can be given finished goods for 2022, which is maybe 70,000, for 2023, which maybe can be 90,000. And then we can also be given our cost of sales, which may be maybe 1 million. So how do I get my cost of production of finished goods now? We're going to say opening balance, or we can have it in a T account way, opening balance of 70,000. And then we have our cost of sales, our cost of sales of R1 million. This is our cost of sales. We can have our closing balance of 90,000. So for us to get this amount, we can say 1 million for cost of sales plus 90,000. Then we get 1,090,000. 1,090,000. And then we say 1,090,000 minus 70,000. Then we get 1,020,000. So this 1,020,000 may become our cost of production of finished goods. So if you don't do it using the produced unit, you can do it using the finished goods. Otherwise, you may do it using the format, the bottom-up format. Okay. Now, apart from this, I want us also to touch a little bit on our break-even point. What is the formula for the break-even point? Just for a quick revision, for our break-even point, remember our formula says fixed cost. This formula sheet will be given to you. Divide by selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. Meaning if your fixed cost, remember what is fixed cost? Fixed cost is what? It is factory overheads plus administration. So it's factory overheads plus administration. And then selling price per unit, how do we get it? We say sales divided by units sold. What is variable cost? Variable cost, remember, it will be our selling and distribution, our direct material cost, and our direct labor cost. All of these divided by unit produced. So we divide all of this by unit produced. Selling and distribution plus direct material cost plus direct labor cost. Divide by unit produced. And then we get our variable cost. Please remember how to calculate variable cost, how to calculate fixed cost. If the question says calculate fixed cost, you take factory overheads plus admin. If the question says calculate variable cost, we take selling and distribution plus direct material cost plus direct labor cost. Okay, so I hope you got that one right. Now, I want us to do it practically now. If your fixed cost is maybe 200,000, your variable cost per unit is 50 rands. Your selling price per unit is 180,000. How do we get our break-even point? The question says calculate your break-even point now. How do we calculate break-even point? My formula would say fixed cost divided by selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. Remember, the selling price per unit minus variable cost, that is your what? Contribution per unit. Okay, now what do? I will say 200,000 now, divide by selling price, which is 180 minus 50, which is our variable cost. So now we say 200,000 divide by 180 minus 50. Then this gives us 1,538 units. Remember, why must we do break-even point? We must calculate how many units must we produce and sell for us to cover our production cost. And then again, we calculate break-even point to find out how many units extra must we start producing and selling in order for us to start making a profit. Why do we calculate break-even point? To realize how many units must we produce for us to cover our production cost. Okay, that is why we are doing this. We don't want to make a loss in the process of production. Right. So this is the break-even point question. You may also be asked to explain or to analyze or comment on maybe direct material. You may be given direct material for 2022, 2023. Direct material can be 15 rands here, can be 80 rands here. Then they will say comment on the direct material. So what will be your comment here? Direct material increased. You'll say it has increased from 15 rands to 80 rands. Okay. What is the solution? Solution is to do what? Find a cheaper supplier. Find a cheaper supplier. Find a supplier nearby, a local supplier selling quality products for you to avoid this. Sometimes it can be direct labor increasing, so you do what? You avoid overtime. Maybe they can also ask you the reasons for the increase. Maybe we are buying our material internationally. We are paying more on transport. We have opted for more expensive quality material and all of that. Okay. So please expect theory under the cost accounting. Follow the structure of our NSC previous papers. Then you will understand. Remember, in your cost accounting, there will be the production cost statement and the factory overhead, direct material, direct labor calculation part. At the bottom, there will be the unit cost calculations and comments. It's where you find your break-even point, comment and calculation. It's where you find your unit cost, comment and calculation. For your break-even point, you may also be required to comment on your break-even point. You can have the break-even point for 2 years. For 2023, your break-even point can be 40,000 units. For 2022, your break-even point can be maybe, let's say, 32,000 units. This is your break-even point. Your production can be 45,000. Your production can be 43,000. So what would be your comment? You will say that there was an increase in units produced. Okay? Increase in production from 43,000 units to 45,000 units. Okay? This is also above the break-even point of 40,000 units, meaning the business may realize a profit on, there will be a profit on, this will be our profit now. We say 45,000, which is the unit produced, minus 40, which is the break-even point. So it's profit on 5,000 units. So if the selling price is 20 rands, it will be 5,000 times 20 rands. So it will be 100,000. So the business may realize a profit on 5,000 units. So that is how we comment on our break-even point. Okay, so you must expect calculation on the break-even point, or you prove the calculation of break-even point. You also do your comments in break-even point. What do you look at? Production of 1 year compared to production of another year. Production of 1 year compared to the break-even point of 1 year. Production of the second year compared to the break-even point of the second year. What do we expect at all times? This is what we always expect. We want our break-even point to always be less. Okay, let me just write this one properly. We want our break-even point to be less than the produced unit. So if your break-even point is less than the production, it means you are doing well. You are able to cover your costs. But if your break-even point is more than your produced unit, the owner should not be satisfied. We are unable to cover our cost. Okay. Now, apart from this, you need to understand the concept of economies of scale. We have this concept, economies of scale. Now, what is economies of scale? This is when we produce more but spend less. We are producing more but we are spending less. What is these economies? We also have this one, these economies of scale. This one is now we are producing less but we are spending more. Now, how do we see the question on economies of scale? They may ask you that the fixed cost per unit have decreased while the production increased. Can you explain what's happened there? You will say economies of scale because your fixed cost, you are spending now less because you are producing more. Now, meaning that as you produce more, you will have more money to cover your fixed cost per item, even though your fixed cost remains the same, but your fixed cost per unit must go down. So every time you visit your administration and your factory overheads for you to check economies of scale, it must go down, meaning factory overheads per unit, administration cost per unit must decrease for you to see that there is economies of scale, and the production must go up. Right, great talks. We have now come to the end of our lesson. Thank you for watching this lesson. See you next time.